Ryan, that is my best breaking news sound audio impersonation. What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic. Mr. Ryan Muckenhirn across from me, and welcome back to the Vortex Nation podcast, where we're doing a little bit of a compilation of like wildlife hunting related news stories today, Ryan.
Kind of like a newscast.
Yeah. Like a newscast.
Yeah.
Exactly. So over the last few weeks or so, I've become aware of a few things that I thought were pretty cool. And I was like, man, let's do a little current events type thing, make people aware of things they might not be aware of. Some stuff I think is just really cool. And even woven into one of these, Ryan, a little bit of scandal.
You know, it's important to be bear aware, Mark.
It is. And I'm going to make you bear aware of a new bear hunting season.
I tied one together.
You did. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
In the great state of Florida.
Yes.
Man, I tell you what, black bears aren't the first critter that comes to mind for me personally when I think of Florida.
Gators.
But yeah, apparently they have an established population that's seen substantial growth over time. Definitely a very successful comeback story. And now they have a sustainable, a population that can support sustainable harvest.
Kudos.
So here's what it says here. When you ask the old internet, yes, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the FWC, has approved a bear hunt. According to the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, the FWC voted 4-1 on May 21st, 2025, to move forward with the bear hunt, which is expected to begin in December of 2025.
That's right on the horizon.
Yeah, that's coming up here.
No doubt.
So, some interesting little, fun facts here. Nuisance bear calls increased from 2,000 in 2016 to more than 6,000 in 2024, according to the FWC. Following the most recent statewide population estimate in 2015, so we're talking 2015 now.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Multiple bear subpopulations were determined to be large and healthy enough to sustain a hunt. The FWC estimates the 4 largest subpopulations have grown annually since that time, and no subpopulations have shown evidence of decline.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I think they estimate approximately 4,050 bears statewide. Pretty cool stuff.
That is good. It'll be nice. You know, hunting, of course, when we think about what's important about hunting, and if we look at the North American model and population management and conflict resolution and conflict management, but also funding, right? So I apply to the state of Florida for some hunts, and that money goes into all sorts of very important things that don't just touch hunters. And so here's another box to be checked for a funding avenue and resource.
It certainly is.
Yes.
Well, and another thing I was reading too, it's like we have these bear populations, like I said, what an amazing success story, that are stable, likely increasing. I think it's safe to say they are increasing. Development and things like that are not decreasing.
Yes.
So eventually we're going to have bear populations that are doing this, habitat doing this. I'm showing a grow and shrink with my hands if you're not watching on YouTube. And, we need to do these things. Number one, it creates opportunity for hunting, which I think is incredibly important. But the result of that is going to be healthy populations of these bears and other critters that are managed and scientifically and responsibly.
My insidious side says the more money that we can put into a Fish and Wildlife Commission, into that area, the more we can offset population. And I'm not saying like it's going to turn the tides, not population of bears, but like encroachment from the human population. We would have the ability to purchase, procure, or maintain, hopefully expand, lands that are set aside for wildlife habitat, for hunting, for ecological research, etc. Prevent to quote Jack Johnson, paving paradise from happening.
Oh, man, I sure hope so.
That's what we're here for.
I sure hope so. All right.
Great news bit there, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
News coming at you from the great state of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to read this. Oh, boy. I didn't cite my sources. This, I think, is from the Tennessee Game and Fish.
Okay.
But if it's not
Wikipedia,
then it's not. In Tennessee, deer baiting on private property will be legal starting next year, 2026, for a fee.
Oh.
Hunters will need a special baiting privilege license to hunt over bait on their own land or leased land, essentially private land, I think that's what they're saying, which costs $50 for residents and $100 for non-residents.
I see.
All hunters in a party hunting over bait, including those exempt from regular hunting licenses, must purchase this license. All hunters in a party using bait are required to possess a permit. Okay. Yeah, doubled up on that. What do you think about that, Ryan?
You know, I applied for an elk tag in Idaho and then a pronghorn tag in Wyoming this year. And there are many fees associated with things other than just the tag.
Right.
And sometimes, and this is just my hot take, government be doing government things and says like must have permit to do this. And I'm very juxtaposed. I'm split right down the middle because I think to myself, why? Why must I do this fee anyways? I can understand.
I got to just, I was getting strong Christopher Walken right there.
Oh, sure.
Why?
Yeah. What happened to your dog's tail? It's a great story. Anyway, why? It's a little odd, right?
Yeah.
So are they going to appropriate those funds appropriately? Are those going toward some sort of program that benefits whitetail deer populations, management, hunting? Or is that
even just general habitat?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Is that just an easy way to be like, yeah, we can make $50 per resident who's hunting private land? I don't know the answer to it, right? So my hope is that like, oh, they're going to use that fund base to benefit the ecosystem that is Tennessee, right? We just had some fellas up here from Tennessee as part of an experience 2 weeks ago. And the two of them and I got talking at large about just the differential nature of hunting in different states. You know, I'm from Minnesota originally. Whitetail deer, at least where I'm from, there's not a ton of them. Here in Wisconsin, specifically in Iowa County where we are, there's a lot of deer. Just ask my Tacoma. I've hit a lot of them.
Man, that thing is a magnet.
It is. But, you know, now that I got the big bumper on there, I can't touch one. Not that I want to. Kind of I want to. But
it's like a little bit of irony there, maybe, perhaps.
And I can't speak intelligently to Tennessee's like tag structure, how they do this. But these guys are allowed to kill 3 antlerless deer a day.
Wow.
Yes. And so I wonder, I speculate, if we're in kind of an upside down situation in Tennessee, as we kind of are in Wisconsin, and our good friend Doug Duran can talk to us at large about this, but like a lot of people don't shoot antlerless deer in the state.
Right.
And we have a lot of them. And there's conflict on kind of two sides of the hunting public that we have here, in that is an important thing to do, or that is not an important or even detrimental thing to do. And I don't know the answer. I shoot antlerless deer predominantly because they're just whitetails, Mark. But
it's like
when
it's fine for me to say things to hurt you.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when you do it back.
Yeah. But if somebody has a leased piece, or they own a farm or a ranch or whatever we call ground in Tennessee that holds whitetail deer, and baiting is a legal means of take, starting yesterday on back, or is legal for the take, I suppose. Why are we like? What is the benefit of monetizing it? And that is an open question because I don't know the answer. Like what says, oh, you need this to do this? What? Why? I guess is my question. So I can't say any more than that because I don't know what the motives behind it was.
Yeah, I've never hunted Tennessee, and I'm not necessarily familiar, or I'm not familiar with Tennessee hunting culture, right? I wonder if, predominantly on private lands, if legal or not, was baiting somewhat common practice, and so they're like, you know what, we might as well make a buck off this thing.
Yep, and I get it.
If it's not, though, I do think that I'm not anti-baiting for deer, bears, things like that. I think it can be a be careful what you wish for sort of thing, because it creates a corn pile arms race between you, your neighbor. If your neighbor is doing it, it almost forces your hand to do it, even if you weren't necessarily interested in it or didn't want to commit the time and money to do that, right? I do think also, I wonder if, and I'm sure they have their reasons, but private land only. Well, if you have private land that borders public land, now you have created a
situation
of the level of attraction from one property to the other.
Yeah.
Creates an imbalance there where it's not necessarily fair for the public land hunter, right?
Sure. That is interesting, though.
It is interesting. And I go back to what you were saying earlier. In fact, I can't remember if we were saying this on the podcast or if I was just talking about it. I was like, you buy a fishing license, and then it's like, oh, you wanted to fish for trout? Oh, you wanted to fish for steelhead? Oh, you wanted to fish for salmon? Oh, you need this stamp, that stamp, this stamp. You're like, geez, Louise, I just wanted to go fishing. Now, going back to what you were saying, though, I do think when you buy these
ancillary
stamps, it oftentimes that money does go back into things that you personally care about. So if the extra $10 whatever inland trout stamp or whatever it goes into habitat, stream improvement, things like that, I'm okay with it. If it goes into the general fund, I'm not really okay with that.
Understood. Yeah, and
I do wish it could be simplified. Like, okay, we want to have a fishing license. Great. Just
somewhat tangential.
Sell me a fishing license.
Somewhat tangential. A few states across the West have now required a permit to pick up sheds.
Oh,
and
right.
Folks I would say I've heard from a vocal minority that is pure BS. However, and an argument's made like, I don't need a permit to pick up rocks. And okay, I see where you're coming from. However, when we think about some of these shed states and when people start hunting sheds, like it's a shotgun start and it's taxing on the landscape and the resource, i.e. mule deer, elk, moose, things that bear antler. And it's just hard. Like ATVs go across land, garbage ends up in places, habitat is disrupted, for that activity. Why should that activity that does tax those resources not be taxed back in an attempt, hopefully, to rebuild those resources or maintain those resources? And I'm not trying to play the contrarian. Like I'm trying to get into the mindset of like, okay, if this is something that a state or local government is imposing, it ought to have an explanation behind it. And that is one possible explanation.
Right. Not what we're talking about with the whole shed thing, but I do think in some instances where we're seeing increased regulation, we're seeing seasons, we're seeing permits, there, to me, again, we're talking about imbalance and fairness. If you're not shed hunting, your ability to be on that landscape is essentially unimpeded, right?
Correct.
So
Is it fair that I can just go walk out there so long as I don't pick up a discarded bone?
Exactly.
Is what you're asking. Yeah, that's a
but how I want to use it,
Yeah.
and a big part of my motivation for being out there is picking up that bone. But now I can't.
And I appreciate
and
that.
I'd say the net difference between the two activities is 0.
Yes, I appreciate that statement. And I'm reminded of a current thing going on that I am also still juxtaposed on. And maybe this is in your news article, but it's the removal of the $200 stamp on suppressors.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not in my notes.
Let me play bad guy for a second. Full disclosure. I don't like tax. Nobody does, right? Nobody likes cutting that check at the end of the year.
No.
Nobody likes seeing $29.99 plus tax. Everybody hates that. However, by filling those coffers, it gives us a little clout. And we ought to be careful sometimes about what we wish for and what we try to wish away. Because a lot of times when money is attached to things, when dollars generated are attached to things, it affords you a level of clout and a level of protection in that activity, in that practice, in that item. And there is something to be said for, sales of this item, sales of this license generated X amount of hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of dollars. And the older I get and the more I pay attention to things, the more that we can contribute, the safer that we often become, right? And just speaking to this industry a little bit, I've been in it for a little while. The low times, the high times. And if there's one thing about the American shooting public, the American hunting public, at whatever level and capacity you're in, we spend a ton of money. And that money is not insignificant, I guess, upon audit. And I think, and again, I'm kind of playing bad guy here. I think that there should be an allowance for such things, and especially like antlers, for instance. I know guys, customers that I correspond with on the regular that have made businesses out of picking up bones.
Sure.
They sell them for copious amounts of money because they pick up hundreds and thousands of them, and they turn a handsome sum. And I suppose maybe for them, and again, I'm taking the recreational person out of the equation here. And again, kind of playing contrarian. I suppose for them, that fee is somewhat inconsequential because they're bringing home an income
right
off of this, right? For the person who likes to go out and pick up a bone, it is annoying to have to pay yet again another fee to use land that if I was just going out and hiking with an umbrella, I'm free and clear to do so. A lot of this is like the wilderness areas and places that you and I hunt. Because it's wilderness, we can't be left to our own devices out there. We're a risk to ourselves and the habitat. We need to pay.
As a hunter,
yeah.
As a hunter who is likely a much more experienced outdoors person than the person doing general recreating.
Yeah.
Now I'm drawing a that's kind of like a generalization.
Yeah.
Some folks might take offense to that, but I'd say by and large, hunters spend a lot of time in the woods. We've practiced levels of bushcraft. We've been around a lot of wild animals. We've been close to a lot of wild animals. We know how to manage those situations to the best of our ability. But yes, like you said, we are apparently inept going into some of these wilderness areas where if you're just going to go on a hike, you can, knock yourself out.
Yeah, you said it best one time. It's like I can't hunt there without paying a guide because I can't be left to my own devices. But if I wanted to go naked fly fishing, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Which okay. But know this, like I develop a tolerance.
I might just do that to prove a point.
Right. I develop a tolerance to, we'll call them these taxes or these fees, knowing that when taken to task on what am I as an individual or what are we collectively as a community of hunters and shooters, doing to benefit versus somebody who is in that landscape just because. I can throw down my receipts and I can say, that is how much money I put into habitat conservation, wildlife conservation, the futuring or the continued future of this place, this space, this species. Hands down.
Funding game and fish organizations.
Yes. Whereas those who, and I'm not trying to diminish the right of people who just want to recreate on lands that our tax dollars paid for. And that is enough, right? That is enough. That came out of your pocket. For that person who decided they wanted to take somebody to task on hunting and whether there is any kind of benefit to it, they're going to fall short. And it's a nice thing to lean back on. I don't like it, but I have it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, there's substance to that argument.
Yeah. But then again,
I hate taxes.
$50? $50 to put some deer seeds out?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
If you're from Tennessee, hunt Tennessee, let us know.
Yeah, what is this all about?
Yeah, what's going on? Are you stoked about this? Has it just been going on all along? So it's like, well, state wants to make an extra buck off it. Are you not stoked on it? What's your Tennessee baiting stoke level? Let us know. Here's a new one, Ryan. Idaho. You were just talking about Idaho. They've revamped their, I'd say, by and large, I'm going to call it like a general tag, but their tag allotment system. They've gone away from, like you said, the shotgun start, log into the computer, everybody hit go, system likely crashes at some point. You can bypass the system if you show up in person. And they're going to a drawing for all the 2026 non-resident deer and elk tags. So Fish and Game Commission approves drawing for 2026 non-resident deer and elk tags. Application period will be in December of 2025. So you're, if I remember correctly, they're kind of, let the floodgates open, get your Idaho tags was in December. So the time frame should, I think, theoretically be somewhat consistent there. Says results will be posted in early January. A 2026 hunting license is required for a non-resident hunter to apply for a tag. There is no application fee. That's refreshing. Up to 5 tag choices can be made per application species. Up to 4 hunters can be on one application. I think that is a difference. I don't think you were able to apply as a party in the previous format.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar.
Which to me is a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
Really for anybody. I'll take you and I.
Yep.
Here's an example. Oh, Ryan, we should hunt Idaho. Well, I might go into the system and get a tag for me. Then you don't get one. Well, you don't want to burn your time, money, and vacation necessarily without a tag in your pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Or you want to hunt as a family. I don't. I believe that is a difference, and so I think that's a big plus. Successful applicants must buy their tags by a deadline date, or the tag will be forfeited. Tags not drawn or not bought by the deadline date will be available in the second application period in January. Participating in the drawing for non-resident general tags will not affect a hunter's ability to participate in controlled hunt drawings. I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Now, I will say, I know there are going to be some folks who have been, hey, it's like, the old don't hate the player, hate the game sort of thing. And, they've been getting tags on a very consistent basis because they're showing up in person. Yep. They're also doing a little bit extra work there too.
Oh, yeah.
Time, effort, money, plane rides even, right? Why were you trying to get in my notes there?
Well, it looked like you closed it out. There was more text there. Down the list.
One thing that I think Idaho did really well, and I'm going to commend them here on their resistance to any sort of points system. It's still a random lottery. it is the only system that is not broken, in my opinion.
Yeah, despite New Mexico forgetting that I have a pulse, I agree with it. Because I know what it's like a known entity or known quantity. Like I know what I'm getting into when I apply there.
Well, you know what you're getting into, and you always know you have
a chance.
A chance.
And a good one.
I mean,
relative to the rest of the populace.
And particularly for a person who, just by when you're born, right? You could be out of the game just because of when you were born. Yep. Well, you don't have enough points for that. You'll never see that. Yep. So I think that's too cool. Good on you, Idaho, in that regard.
Great state.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
PA.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers going to quarterback the Steelers this year, I hear.
Okay.
I also have other news. I just thought I'd bring up football because I know you don't care about it. Looking like residents of PA, or probably non-residents as well, going to be able to hunt on Sundays here shortly.
Oh, my stars.
Looking like.
Okay.
I would say strongly looking like.
Yeah.
We may have to report back in a future news podcast, Ryan. Senate Bill 67, which would allow the Pennsylvania Game Commission to permit more Sunday hunting, has been approved by the Pennsylvania Senate. The bill would repeal the existing prohibition on Sunday hunting and grant the commission the authority to designate how many Sundays will be open for hunting each year.
You know, I had a conversation with a PA resident about the complexities of the Sunday thing.
Yeah.
And how it goofs up your whole work, children's school schedule, deer camp, just throws a wrench.
For a lot of folks out there, Ryan, you can hunt 2 days a week. And that is Saturday
and Sunday. Yeah, same.
For a lot of those folks, it's probably 1 to 0 days a week, depending on kids' sports schedules, things like that. By just automatically removing 50% of a person's potential hunting days, number one, that just stinks.
Yeah.
You know, if you had 2 days to hunt, but you can only hunt one, that stinks. The other thing too is like people are really like, do I really want to go through all this time and effort for one day? Might not even get into hunting. I don't know. I think that'd be a big plus there. Reasons for support. Supporters of the bill, including the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau and various hunting advocacy groups, argue that allowing more Sunday hunting would help control deer populations, reduce crop damage, and provide more hunting opportunities for sportsmen.
The biggest thing is opportunities, man. Because you made a really good point, 0 to 1 days. Like you've got kids, they're involved in extracurriculars.
Right.
The 2 days that you're not here a week, you're like, oh my gosh, how do I pull it off? And then life gets in the way. And if you make 2 1, well, 1 is none, 2 is 1.
Well, and what if you have a substantial drive?
Yeah, which you do kind of. I mean, it's not insignificant for you to get out to get somewhere. Like you're an hour.
Yeah.
And
in general.
Yep.
You know, probably in general, an hour minimum. Yep. Right. So you're like, oh, now I'm going to burn this time and fuel. And, you know, when I could have stayed overnight and just slept in my truck and gotten, doubled up there. So anyway, that's a really cool one to watch. Surprised it's taken this long. I know it. Honestly. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on that. That'll be good. I'm happy for Pennsylvania there. Yeah, it's got Senate support, Game Commission support, a lot of support behind this one. I'd be shocked if it didn't go through, but maybe we'll report back. All right, I saved this one for last, Ryan. This is kind of the juicy one. So we did a podcast a while back on the Washington State spring bear hunt, getting the old axe, the Unfounded Axe. I'm just going to read this. This is from Sportsman's Alliance. We podcasted with Sportsman's Alliance here at Vortex as well. Great organization. The U.S. Sportsman's Alliance Foundation petitioner, on behalf of itself and its members, who include many hunters, anglers, and trappers in the state of Washington, hereby petitions the Honorable Governor Bob Ferguson to excise his constitutional and statutory authority to remove commissioners Barbara Baker, John Bloomkill. I know I said that wrong. Lorna Smith and Melanie Rowland for cause from the Washington Fish and Wildlife Commission. As outlined below, these commissioners have demonstrated incompetence, misconduct, and malfeasance in office. Sportsman's Alliance requested a lot of public record. I think what they found was probably what we knew was going on, but also to the extent a little bit shocking. The commission has appeared to be pushing an anti-hunting agenda all along, but what's been discovered, secret meetings, strategizing against stakeholders to push their agenda, exclusion of the tribes and others from these meetings, mistreatment of Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife personnel. Pretty interesting stuff, pretty concrete, pretty black and white. Here it is. It's in writing. It's in their own writing. It's coming from them. So, yeah, the new governor, Bob Ferguson, has some decisions to make. And personally, I think it would be a bad look for him to not
make that call.
Yeah. I think if he doesn't, if they haven't already lost faith in the commission,
that'll solidify a lot.
And actually, faith in him governing the state in a fair and essentially in by the law, right? So that's an interesting one. We're going to keep an eye on that. I think I want to, if we can, try and get old Sportsman's Alliance on the podcast horn here in the near future and chat with them and get some of the specifics. I read kind of the first paragraph there. Many paragraphs beyond that. As outlined below, a lot of outlining going on. I've seen some of this stuff, and it's interesting.
Yeah. And I believe you're from Washington.
You've remembered.
Yeah. And so this is of personal interest to you.
It's of personal interest to me, but I think the way this commission has been structured, which is by appointment, and their behavior, their actions, their overarching obvious agenda, like I said, anti-hunting agenda. I think it extends beyond the state of Washington as far as trends and things I've seen occurring in similar commissions in other states. And I think by shining a spotlight on this, it somewhat shines a spotlight on what's going on in other states. And even if you listen to this podcast or become aware of this issue, even if you don't hunt, I think it's really good for you to pay attention to what's going on here, how it's transpiring, and why. And ask yourself, even if it doesn't necessarily, if you feel like it doesn't necessarily affect you directly.
Yeah.
It does, because we live in a society, we have rules, we have these laws, we have protocols, and if they're not being followed to push essentially personal agendas, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. You could be the most ardent anti-hunter that's out there, have a completely opposing view from you and I, Ryan, right? But my hope would be that this person, that we don't see eye to eye on this issue, we do see eye to eye on how we have to go about things.
Yeah. In a fair and just and unbiased and beneficial for the entire populace.
Right.
Of that local, state, or federal body.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say to this person, if they do have those views, or if you don't, or the person that says, well, I don't hunt. How much do I really care? Whatever, right? It does affect you because science-based wildlife management, which includes the North American model, does benefit you if you care about our wildlife habitat and wild landscapes, regardless if you're going to be a quotation mark consumptive user.
Correct. Yes. It goes back to those people who don't do those things that still enjoy those landscapes.
Right.
And who still enjoy those species and their, continual protection and flourishing. Yeah. That is a juicy one, Mark.
So that's my closer.
This is the news with Mark Boardman.
To be continued.
Stay classy, Sheboygan.
But yeah, hopefully this, and some of this may have come to a conclusion by the time we kick this podcast out the door. The governor's been sitting on this for a little while, dragging his feet. I think he thinks that it's going to go away. I don't think Sportsmen's Alliance is letting it go away.
Boys are fighters.
So, cool. Yeah. The news. A couple news-related things.
Next time we'll be in suits and have mustaches.
That would be cool.
Will be cool.
I'm going to keep my eyes open for some...
Suits?
Yeah, and like other stuff like this.
Oh, yeah. No, this is good. I like this.
Kind of a current event sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let us know if you liked it. If you're interested in any of this stuff, let us know in the comments below. Hopefully you found some of this stuff interesting. Hopefully it made you think about a few things. And until next time, we'll catch you on the next one. And we'll hopefully see you out there, possibly in Pennsylvania on Sunday. All right. Take care, everybody. Happy hunting shooting. Bye.